Continue. I'm a retired college professor and writing a book on Reich's social and political thought, about which I've spoken here a number of times. A recent survey showed that 71% of Americans believe in an immortal soul. And obviously, if the soul survives, it's somehow separate from the body, because we know what happens to the body. And this is called dualism. And it's not a new idea. It's a very old idea. You can find it in Plato. But in terms of contemporary or modern thought, not contemporary, but modern thought, it's usually attributed to René Descartes, who made a very clear split between the soul or the mind and the body. Descartes was deeply committed to the scientific enterprise and felt that everything could be explained scientifically in the material world. He was Jesuit trained. He developed, as some of you know, analytic geometry, and he was very much into mathematics, etc. But he felt there was this separate realm, and this may have been, and by the way, he was knowledgeable about physiology. Though it was a very mechanistic kind of physiology, but he knew about nerves and he knew about muscles contracting and things like that. Still, there was this entirely separate thing called the mind. This might have been his attempt to reconcile science with religion, since it's one thing to say that science can explain the material world, but if there's this separate realm of souls and gods, we're going to be cool with the church. And he was living in France in the 17th century. Fortunately, we don't have to worry today about reconciling science and religion. Oh, wait, but 71% of people believe in an immortal soul. Descartes' view is dubbed the ghost in the machine by Gilbert Ryle, a British philosopher. And, because he had a very mechanistic view of the body, but there was also the ghost. For Reich, the idea that the mind and body are somehow separate is not only rejected, but is seen as a symptom. That is, for Reich, if you're drawn or attracted to this kind of separation, that for him bespeaks a lack of awareness or a lack of kind of a split, an inability to make contact with oneself, and correspondingly an inability to make contact with the world. And thus one is drawn into mysticisms and talk about gods or souls or something like that. That's my introduction to today. I'm not going to repeat what was on the flyer since you've already read the flyer. I do want to say something about the schedule. And then as others arrive, if they want to introduce themselves, but then we're going to start. Dan Schiff will start very close to 9:45. So if you look at the schedule, it says 9:45, Dr. Dan Schiff will be speaking, and then it says response and discussion. When it comes to discussion, I'm going to ask Dr. Weitzner and Hugh Brenner to always speak first, because they're respondents, they're not presenters. And actually, I'm going to ask that the person who is presenting to hold off until the discussants have brief comments. That person can then reply, and then we want to make sure there's ample opportunity for questions from the floor. And we'll always give the presenter the first chance to answer those questions before some of the discussants weigh in. So after our first presentation, we'll have a brief break. I'll then talk, and we'll follow that same pattern. Let me see. The person who just arrived, would you like to introduce yourself? People have been doing that.
My name is Judith Baldwin.